Speedway Report is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. Well, IndyCar tested their new aero screen at the Brickyard. We heard the racing too hard again at Dover. And NASCAR grabs another series and will likely destroy it. All this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, October the 7th, 2019. From the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina, I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour of racing. Have you subscribed to our new YouTube channel? Well, the channel's not new. We've been around for a while, but have you subscribed? Head on over to YouTube, subscribe to Speedway Report. We'll get dropped in your mailbox every single week. No need to go looking for us. Of course, we appreciate it if you do when you do start off your week with us right here live on Facebook. But whatever platform you watch us, thank you for checking out the show. Let's jump right into the Speedway Report Victory Lane Lap. Get some results. Find out who won what. We're getting deeper into the fall. Championship battles are forming. Most real, some phony, but they're forming, and the racing rolls on. NASCAR's Monster Energy Cup Tour went 400 miles yesterday afternoon in Dover, Delaware. Kyle Larson broke a winless drought for a couple of years, gets his way back to victory lane. The Xfinity cars went 200 miles on Saturday at Dover. Cole Custer was your winner there. And the East Series opened up the weekend with 125 laps on Friday in Dover. Sam Mayer takes the win and the championship for the K&N Pro Series East. Over on the dirt, the Lucas Oil Late Models raced Friday night at Raceway 7 in Ohio. Kyle Bronson was your winner there. And Saturday, they finally got into Pittsburgher 100. This was rained out from this past summer, a big traditional race held on the week heading into Independence Day weekend. Don O'Neill was the winner of the 100-lapper on Saturday night. $20,000 gets deposited into his checkbook. World of Outlaw late models were down here in the Southeast on Friday night. They raced in Cherokee Speedway. In Gaffney, South Carolina, Mike Duval Memorial was held. Brandon Overton was your winner there. The tour packed up, headed west to Tennessee at 411 Motor Speedway. Overton liked the view from Victory Lane so much on Friday, he got out the broom, swept the weekend, and was your winner at 411 in Tennessee on Saturday. The World of Outlaw Sprints held a doubleheader at the Williams Grove Speedway, their big National Open. This is their biggest weekend of the year. On Friday night, the preliminary evening, the A-Main was taken by David Gravel. Saturday's big 40-lap finale, and $65,000 to win went to Brent Marks. The ARCA cars, not so lucky as the World of Outlaws world. They got their complete show in. ARCA raced at Lucas Oil Raceway out in Indianapolis on Saturday night. Chandler Smith got the win, but it was rain shortened after 167 of the 200 laps. He took the lead very late in the going. Guys knew rain was coming in. He took the lead. Sprinkles came in. The sprinkles turned to a rain shower. They were done. Close to them in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, on Saturday night, the USAC Sprint feature was won by Kevin Thomas Jr. And the biggest late model stock car race of the year for the pavement division, the Whalen Weekly Racing Series for NASCAR, held at Martinsville. The annual 200 lapper held there each fall. Josh Berry won. He was the first guy to win the race that led the entire distance. He led all 200 laps, went pole to pole for the win, and he drives for one of the powerhouse teams in late model stock car racing, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. crew. So Barry takes the win in Jr.'s car. Huge win for the late model stock car world. If you're unfamiliar with that race, that's pretty much the Daytona 500 for late model stock cars here in the Southeast. Now, what's on my mind? First thing I want to do is to thank some folks that are here week in and week out. We've got a good rotating cast, and so many people catch the podcast later on. Some live folks that are here each week. Jack Red, Jack Approved, Thomas Warren, Paul McKeever. Guys, thank you. I see you guys every week. I'm busy here with the show, so I don't have time to interact with you during the broadcast because I'm juggling too many chainsaws that are running and on fire as I produce, write, and perform this show. But I thank you here for being here every week. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have you guys in my audience. And someone that doesn't catch us live, but is on the podcast, I've mentioned it before, Leo is down in Brazil. He watches the show every single week. He was back with us in the Motor Week Live days on Racers Reunion Radio. So all you guys, I appreciate everybody that watches us. These guys are just consistent week in and week out. Couldn't do this without you guys. I appreciate you being here every single time. Now, my head's been spinning about this one for a long time. The announcement came a while back. I think it was a year, 2 years ago. And now the plan is being formed. And I'm wondering and dreading what is ahead for ARCA. Oh, my goodness. We're heading into a downward spiral as near as I can tell. Now, NASCAR taking over the ARCA series. If you listen to the talking media heads, NASCAR media, which so many of them are somehow connected to the well-being and generosity of NASCAR. Their paycheck comes through some form. You know, if you're on Sirius or MRN, you're tuned into the International Speedway Corporation. PRN is tied to SMI. The folks at NBC and Fox know these lucrative television contracts that their network purchases in which they sell advertising. It's all connected. Follow the money. Follow the money. So many talking media heads won't call this for what it is, and I don't like the look of it. I am scared for the future of ARCA. I'm going to watch another series probably get destroyed by NASCAR, as they have gone through and wreaked havoc over so many short track programs that should have flourished if they put the power behind the short tracks that they did behind the Cup Series. But here we are, and I'm worried for ARCA. Let's look at this. ARCA is combining and going under all one umbrella with the NASCAR Pro Series East, Pro Series West, and ARCA. They had a release this past week outlining the series schedule. Confusing as all heck. I read it several times. There's going to be 10 races and 10 races and 10 races, and I don't know. It's very confusing to me. I still don't have a grasp on it. But what concerns me about this is ARCA being taken under the NASCAR wing. ARCA was at one time a competitor to NASCAR and then became a very good co-worker as they provided support division, or their premier series was the support class on so many Cup weekends throughout the years. They've been working hand in hand. The two series have, NASCAR and ARCA, for decades. And ARCA was at one time so much healthier than what they once were. We've got car counts in the teens for the ARCA series now. And I remember when the super speedways would hold to 40 cars and they'd be sending a pile of cars home. Does this sound familiar to the upper levels of NASCAR? It should. We're reliving it once again. The former ashes of Busch North and Winston West, which NASCAR used to run, used to hold, and be so strong and so powerful, have evolved through the Pro Series East and Pro Series West, and we've seen how they've gone. The car counts have dwindled. I think the East Series this past Friday at Dover had 14 cars show up. 14 cars on the Monster Mile at Dover is one rough ticket to sell. 14 cars on a mile track for 125 laps. Goodness, I remember Busch North, or oh my goodness, they used to send so many cars home because so many showed up. And it was so healthy. Official statistics showed that Sam Mayer needed to finish 27th in Friday's race in order to clinch the championship. Well, only 14 cars showed up, so the man was sitting pretty. Now, this championship was decided all year long, but 14 cars showed up for the East race at Dover. That's not healthy. That's not good. This was the former Busch North Series, which NASCAR did run, but then they just started wanting to put it under a sort of a Cup Light or a Cup Feeder Series. And we saw how that has gone with so many other tours. Let me rattle off the body count here of divisions that NASCAR has strewn and destroyed and just laid waste to. Do you remember the Busch All-Star Tour? Do you? I do. It was in the 1980s, and they were dirt late models. They ran features often in the 30 to 50 lap range. This was a Midwest-based tour, and this was very strong in the early 80s. NASCAR started this with the regional series that they have when they began the regional championships in 82, I want to say that began. And the Busch All-Star Series was one of the touring championships. No longer exists. Let's keep going. NASCAR's Whelen Southern Modified Tour, just a few years removed from this thing, but this had its own tour, as well as the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour and the Southern Tour. And the Southern Tour, they went under the guise of, let's combine the two series and we'll have one big one. Well, it's pretty much modified tour as it was, a couple races here in the South, and the Southern guys are back to running Bowman Gray and the Southern Modified Racing Series here when they have a few events. This was the old Smart Tour. I remember them in the 80s, taken under the wing of Randy Myers, I believe, and it went for a long time through the 90s. NASCAR decided we're going to have our Southern Tour and took a lot of those dates. The Southern Modified Tour still existed, not under a NASCAR sanction, and it ran separately from the Southern Modified Tour. The Southern Modified Tour still exists. NASCAR's Southern Modified Tour no longer does. Let's go back to the early 80s again in a little history lesson. One of my favorite series, one of my favorite divisions that ever existed, the All-Pro Series. Do you remember that? Yes, Bob Harmon's short track, beautiful series, lots of money, live pit stops, a powerhouse here in the Southeast. What happened? NASCAR got a hold of it. It became the NASCAR All-Pro Series, and then later on became the NASCAR Southeast Series because NASCAR had other divisions that were regionally named, yet the cars were very similar, a super late model style. We had the Northwest Series, the Southwest Series, the Midwest Series, and the All-Pro Series became the Southeast Series. Can you pull up their 2020 schedules now? No, they're all gone. They were healthy. NASCAR took them under their wing, destroyed them, ran them right out of business. Let's talk about what the Pro Series East and West is, or was in this case, Busch North and Winston West. We touched on this earlier. Winston West used to be comparable to Winston Cup racing. The cars, the series were the same. There are even a few races that overlapped each other. The ones in Phoenix, the ones in Riverside. How many remember the inaugural Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis in 1994? That was a combination Winston Cup Series, Winston West event. They were welcome to come. These guys remember the legends of Herschel McGriff and so many others. What did we now? Pro Series West? Again, we're getting 14 cars show up for a 150 lapper on a Saturday night. What the hell happened? Thanks, NASCAR. I still got to go back and reread this release from last week because I'll admit at broadcast time, as I'm doing this live, I don't fully understand the ARCA series and the NASCAR East and West series all merging. I get that they're merging, but let me explain the format to you. I can't yet. I don't get it yet. But NASCAR has shown they don't really care about simplicity of stuff with playoff points and stages and rounds and elimination for the Cup, the Xfinity, and Truck Series titles. So they're not really afraid of making a complicated series. Now, I guess the guys in the trenches, they understand this day to day, but the average fan can look on the outside and go, hey man, what's going on here? What are they doing? The other fan that are watching, I don't think still can tell you. I don't get playoff points, and I don't fully grasp the whole merging of this, how it's going to work, how you're going to race, how you're going to decide a championship. But I think it's heading downhill just from the history. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. I would love to see the All-Pro Series still alive. The NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour, they're all gone. The Busch North Series was a phenomenally powerful series. The K&N East Series is the Kids and Nephews Series, Kids and Nieces Series. We all know what they are. I don't know what's going to happen. ARCA was once a glorious series. It was we criticized them on super speedways, but it was a chance for guys to step off the short tracks and finally get some super speedway experience. You had to step up there sometime, and a lot of them did it through ARCA. We criticized them and their qualifications for their resumes of the drivers that started there. Had a lot of bad crashes over the year in super speedways as guys got their first taste of what plate racing is like, or even intermediate track racing is like. Have had some bad crashes. I would criticize them what they looked at the resumes of these drivers and if they were qualified or not. But however, ARCA has a long-standing history in American motorsports, and through the history of what NASCAR has scooped up, chewed up, and spit out, I'm not sure ARCA is going to be here 5 years from now or 10 years from now. That NASCAR has done a whole lot of damage to these series, and I don't know why, because the Cup Series was once the premier series in the United States, but we've seen that be destroyed as well. Yeah, I feel for ARCA and what's coming next. I'm not anticipating it. I'm not looking forward to it. But with sadness, I'm going to watch the ARCA series in 2020 and 21 and beyond and hope for the best, much like I did the Busch All-Star Tour. Let's get away from that a little bit. We'll keep the fenders on the cars for now. There was a lot of mouthing off about Joey Logano yesterday at the Cup race at Dover by Denny Hamlin, as Joey had a mechanical failure, went behind the wall before the green flag of the race was repaired. I think he returned to the track 23 laps down to begin his race. And then Denny Hamlin criticized him for getting in the way of the leaders. And Logano went out there and he says, hey, we raced just as hard as we could the entire race. And Hamlin questioned him being 24 laps down. Like, look, all right, you guys all know how much I hate playoffs in the chase and how they do it nowadays. I think it's a phony championship. However, to guys like Logano and Hamlin for that matter, they are Cup drivers. They don't get a say in how the title is formed, but they are participating in it, and they damn well better know how the system works. They need to know. This is the system they're playing under, whether they like it or not. Now, Joey Logano, at the end of the race in Dover yesterday, was tied for 8th spot, which is the final transfer spot to the next round of the playoffs. What's the tiebreaker? It results in Logano on the outside looking in, as in 9th, not 8th, and would not move on to the next round of the playoffs. Joey Logano had to race hard that entire event. Hamlin criticized him, saying, one spot? What's that going to do? What's one spot on the standings? Well, yeah, when you're tied for 8th, one spot and 1 point means a difference. Absolutely. I tell you what, as much as I like Denny Hamlin, Hamlin would have done the same thing. If it was him, he went behind the wall, he would have raced hard that entire race. He had to. They're running for his playoff life. And I'm not president of the Joey Logano fan club, but I get what he did, and I like seeing guys run hard. I don't like seeing anybody let the other guys move over. Once in a while, late in the race, you let the leaders go, you use your head, but during the race as hard as you can. Why not? People criticize Ryan Newman for it all the time. Good. Race hard. Guys should be passing everybody. This let guys go crap is half the reason that the stands are empty. We can go list by list about why the stands are empty. We all know that. That's one of the reasons. We let guys go and we just chill out until the end of the race for 500 miles. I don't like this racing me too hard crybaby. Logano's fighting for his playoff life. So he had to put his right foot down and go for it all day. One position when you're 24 laps down, yeah, Logano's on the outside looking in. Officially, he's tied for 8th. He's actually with the tiebreaker 9th. Right now, he does not move on to the next round. So 1 point, yeah, it meant a whole lot to him. I got to go with Logano on this one. I don't think Hamlin was right, and I think Hamlin would have done the same thing given his position. I don't like the playoffs. The drivers don't have to like them either, but there's millions of dollars up for grabs. That's what they're racing for. That's what they're racing in. Now, the Cup car, rumor has it that the 2021 Cup car, which is the next evolution, next generation, will be tested at Richmond either tomorrow or Wednesday of this week. Tomorrow, if you're watching us live on Monday, October 7th, so it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. Now, is this, much like the COT, the Gen 6, the Gen 7, and all the examples I cited at the beginning of the show of the ARCA series. Is this more on a downfall for the Cup Series with new wheels? And are we going to lose more teams and more owners because of the expense of this thing? We've already redone these cars so many times over the years and spent millions and millions of dollars on these things. What's next? Much like the ARCA series, I'm concerned over what is next for NASCAR at the highest levels. A positive stance in all this, I'm going to get away from the cars with fenders and talk about open wheel racing. IndyCar tested their aero screen this past week. It was in the middle of last week. After we went off the air, Scott Dixon and Will Power went several hundred miles at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They were in the mid-220 range as far as speed went. They both said that their radios are a whole lot more clearer with that windscreen that rises up above their head. They do got some development work to do with tear-offs and glare, because with their helmet, they could just pull the tear-offs on that, and they didn't really use the small windscreen in the Indy cars now. But now you will have a windscreen in front of your face, covers up the whole thing. It'll be somewhat like a stock car where there's tire, grit, grime, glare all get on that. So that has to be addressed. It's got a titanium frame over it that is very similar to the Formula One Halo. Because of the oval track racing nature of IndyCar, the Halo wouldn't work the same. So this aero screen is next. If you haven't seen it, it might work similar to, in your mind, if you picture the canopies that a lot of the top fuel cars are running in NHRA. It bears a resemblance to that and could be a safety factor of that. We cite a few things like maybe, would Justin Wilson still be here if the canopy was in place at his crash at Pocono a few years ago? I worry about a guy like James Hinchcliffe, who may not be here if the canopy was in place after his crash at Indianapolis. Depends on how the crash goes. On paper, it seems like they came up with a great idea, and it's working well in the first test. Just don't want to introduce too many new problems, which I'll say, I spent most of the show complaining about NASCAR. NASCAR is actually slow and methodical in reacting to a lot of safety situations for that reason. You can have a knee jerk and you really introduce new safety problems. Fix one, introduce three more dangerous situations. So I like the pace of the IndyCar role. NASCAR has done that with a lot of safety development since the death of Dale Earnhardt. A lot of development and slow, methodical progress on this. IndyCar, same way. Take your time, do it right. But it's not as ugly and disastrous as I thought it was going to look a few years ago when they did test it, and it was just, it looked pretty nasty. Now, I said that about the Halos when they came out in Formula One too, and now I don't even notice that they're there. So the human racer in me can get over this and be just fine. As we tip our hat to Motor Week Illustrated, Dave Despain, and our Racer of the Week, where our roots of the show are located. So many, each week, it's getting harder and harder to do this as there's so many good candidates. But to me, this week, when you win a race at one track, I did it with Tyler Courtney last week, you pack it up, move the entire tour to another track, you unload and you race again, and you win again. That was the most impressive feat for me of this weekend. Brandon Overton, World of Outlaw late model driver with back-to-back wins in Gaffney, South Carolina, and then 411 Speedway in Tennessee is our Speedway Report racer of the week. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. This broadcast and all of our past shows are uploaded onto the site. We also have racing articles to read. Ron DeBeck submitted another story. Talks about the East Lincoln Dirt Track right here in North Carolina. You want to have a look at what's going on there. Head to SpeedwayReport.com. And she's got the lead featured story right now talking about the East Lincoln Speedway. Hook up with me on social media. Here's the roll down on Facebook, Racers Reunion, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. I'm also at Speedway Pat on Instagram. You can catch up with us on racersreunion.com in the forum. And like I said at the top of the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Speedway Report. Big thanks to everyone on the Facebook Live feed for joining the conversation during the show tonight. Go see a race at a track near you. Fall is coming. Winter's right around the corner. If you don't make it there, we'll all be complaining here in a couple months that there's no racing and it is too cold. So hit those big fall shows at your local track. I want to thank all the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Now, if you're on Facebook right now, head on over to the Drag Racing List page. Drag List Live is coming up at the top of the hour. Bill, John, and Barb got you covered with the drag racing chit chat. Now, I'll be back live here on Facebook next week. It will be Monday, October 14th. We will look at a lot of big stuff. The modified championship race at Thompson's World Series, a Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta, NHRA's Carolina Nationals here in Charlotte, Super Dirt Week from Oswego, New York, and a whole lot more short track racing. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all next week.